Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the absolutely wild, deeply intricate, and honestly pretty haunting magic system at the heart of Yusef Amador's epic fantasy novel, The Wind That Was Not a Wind. Let's just jump right into it.
Okay, so I want you to imagine something for a second. What if your perfectly peaceful hometown was actually a magical prison, and you were the only person awake? Like, really think about that. You're slowly realizing that every single person you love, your friends, your family, is just acting out a pre-written script, and they have absolutely no idea they're trapped. Crazy, right?
All right, part one, the village that was asleep. Let's look at this perfect prison.
So we kick things off strictly from the perspective of 16-year-old Kaito Hoshigawa. And man, the psychological isolation he feels in his hometown of Tsukinoha is intense. It's all in these visceral, unnatural details he calls his file of wrongness. We're talking about a wind that blows against the weather at exactly the 7th bell. Every time. 43 street lanterns that sway in this perfect, unnatural unison. His childhood friend May repeating the literal exact same laugh and wearing the exact same ribbon color every single day. But the kicker? The absolute most disturbing thing? His mom mindlessly chopping an empty cutting board. It's so creepy, and it sets up this incredible chilling puzzle that we're basically forced to solve alongside Kaito.
You know, you really have to wonder, how does a person even survive that kind of psychological horror without totally losing it? Well, Kaito becomes the counting boy. His subconscious mind is just desperately trying to anchor itself to reality, so he obsessively counts objects, like those 43 lanterns. It's a huge red flag, really, signaling that some deep, hidden layer of his psyche is fighting the illusion. He's literally counting just to keep a tiny, hidden part of himself awake while the entire village sleeps.
Moving on to part two, Anatomy of the Seal. Let's dig into this 900-year-old lie.
Right, so this horrifying Stepford Wives level of perfection, it's all maintained by the Tsukiyomi no Ori, which translates to the cage of the moon reading. This is a massive, 900-year-old magical seal kept up by the sage priesthood to totally suppress human perception. And the craziest part is, it's a stolen spell. It works by anchoring a literal cold stone right inside the victim's chest, basically forcing them to dream their entire lives away in this state of obedient, unnatural bliss. And the way the sage priesthood maintains this control is by completely fracturing the truth. They publicly teach everyone about 6 acceptable layers of the self, physical, breath, will, mind, heart, and spirit. Standard stuff, right? But they deliberately hide the existence of the 7th layer. They call it the Watcher. This is the unsealable, true self that is actually aware of being you. They literally erased it from history just to maintain absolute iron-fisted control over everyone's minds.
But here's the thing, it can be broken. Escaping this psychological prison, though, requires a super dangerous internal rebellion. First up, you have to recognize and actually speak the seal's true name out loud. Then, you've got to locate its physical anchor, that freezing cold stone hidden just behind your breastbone. And finally, you have to violently will the magical working to shatter. You're risking everything, I mean literally your own sanity, just to wake up.
Which brings us to part 3, the father's secret war. Let's look at the hidden rebellion.
So Kaito isn't actually the first person to notice the wind is wrong. Decades earlier, his father, Ryohei, lived this incredibly tense espionage thriller kind of life. Think about this timeline. Ryohei frees himself, completely alone in a cellar when he's only 14 years old. Then, at 17, he makes the totally heartbreaking choice to marry Suzume, who is still a sleeping, sealed woman. By 22, he's put together the secret network of the Awake, and he spends his short adult life faking his own seal to build a quiet resistance. And then, he sacrifices himself at just 28.
But Ryohei didn't fight alone. He gathered the 6 companions. These were other awake individuals from all over the country. They hid in plain sight using clever, everyday cover identities. We're talking a courier, a midwife, a blacksmith. Together, they orchestrated this massive, incredibly patient 10-year plan to unmake every single seal in the country at the exact same time and wake the entire population. It's honestly like a fantasy heist crew.
Now for part 4, Return of the Hollow King. The ancient threat awakens.
Okay, so just as Ryohei's resistance is finalizing their master plan, an apocalyptic threat completely blows the stakes out of the water. We learn a terrifying truth. The priesthood, they didn't even invent the magical cage. No, they stole it from the Hollow King, this ancient faceless entity. And guess what? After 900 years, he is rising from the deep underground galleries to violently take his property back. Talk about bad timing.
And when the king finally surfaces in Mizuho Village, the results are just catastrophic. He completely bypasses all those careful, delicate steps of unsealing we talked about earlier. He just shatters the magic by brute force the second he touches someone. It's brutal. It leaves half the village dead, and the survivors are psychologically ruined. They're trapped in this permanently traumatized state that the book calls broken awake.
So forced into a totally impossible choice, Ryohei has to pivot. He has to abandon his patient 10-year plan to safely wake everyone up. Instead, he makes this incredibly tragic, ironic choice. He trades his own life, literally sacrificing himself to temporarily boost the magic of his sworn enemies, the priesthood, just to trap the king back below ground. He gave up his ultimate dream just to save millions of sleeping citizens from being violently unsealed.
And finally, Part 5, Breaking the Cage, A Father's Legacy.
Bringing our two timelines together, we arrive at the emotional climax of the whole story, the inheritance Ryohei carefully left behind for his unborn son. He knew he couldn't physically be there to raise Kaito or break his seal, so he left these little breadcrumbs of truth: an underground library packed with forbidden scrolls, a resonating blue wooden swallow, the rare misting rain chakra pattern in Kaito's own blood, and, absolutely most importantly, a magically charged letter slipped right under his pillow.
And it's just profoundly moving when you realize how this actually worked. Woven with his dying chakra, Ryohei's letter sat beneath Kaito's pillow for 6 whole years. It quietly acted as a slow counterworking, safely eroding that cold stone in the boy's chest. Actually, think about it. For years, the quiet magic woven into that letter acted like a father's hand reaching out from beyond the grave, slowly and safely opening the door to his son's mind.
I'm going to leave you with these haunting words straight from Ryohei's letter. If you ever feel the wind, son, ask the wind where it comes from. And I have to ask you, if you woke up tomorrow and realized your entire world was a carefully curated cage, would you have the courage to ask the wind where it comes from? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope it opened your eyes.